The first message came at 9:14 a.m. on a Tuesday. Morning sunshine, off to work. Coffee first, obviously. Chloe read it while half asleep, smiling faintly at the familiarity of Lena's routine. It sounded just like her. Bright, self-deprecating, a little chaotic. She typed a sleepy reply and tossed her phone aside. What Chloe didn't realize then was that it had been 6 days since anyone had actually seen Lena Morris. At first, no one thought much of it. Lena had always been a little private, the type to vanish into her sketchbooks or shut herself off during deadlines. Her boyfriend Ryan said she was taking some time to breathe. He said it with a calmness that didn't invite further questions, so people believed him. The texts were coming. That meant she was fine. Every morning, a new message. Every night, a small update. Movie night in, popcorn for dinner again. Working late, don't wait up. The kind of banal chatter that fills the space between people who trust each other. The kind of words that should have meant safety. But after a week, something started to feel wrong. It began with punctuation. Lena never used full stops. She always typed fast, messy, lowercase. But now her messages were crisp, grammatically perfect. They read like someone trying to sound casual and failing. Then the timing changed. She used to text at odd hours, bursts of thought around midnight. Now messages arrived with eerie precision. 9 a.m., 2 p.m., 10 p.m. exactly. Chloe noticed first because she was the only one paying attention. She sat at her kitchen table one night, scrolling through old chats, comparing the new messages to the old. The difference was subtle but unmistakable. Her stomach tightened as she scrolled further back. The more she looked, the less she recognized her best friend in those words. She tried to call, but every attempt went to voicemail. Ryan said Lena had dropped her phone a few weeks ago and broke the speaker, which explained why she couldn't take calls. That sounded plausible. Lena was clumsy. But something in his tone made Chloe's chest constrict. It was the way he said it, as if he had practiced the line. Still, she wanted to believe him, everyone did. The city moved on around them, oblivious to the quiet panic that was growing in Chloe's chest. She told herself she was being paranoid. Maybe Lena really was fine. Maybe she was just exhausted, burned out from work, needing space. But when the 10th day passed and Lena still hadn't answered a single call, Chloe decided she couldn't ignore the unease any longer. She sent one last message. "Please just tell me you're okay." A reply came seconds later. "I'm fine. Promise." No emoji, no nickname. Just that. Chloe read it over and over until the words blurred. The next morning she drove to Lena's apartment. It was early. Gray lights spilling through the streets, air damp with drizzle. She hadn't told anyone where she was going. Even saying it out loud felt absurd, like she was overreacting. But something in her gut told her she had to see for herself. The building was quiet. Lena's car was still in the parking lot, glistening with dew. She climbed the stairs, her heart thudding louder with every step. The hallway smelled faintly of mildew and stale air. When she reached Lena's door, she noticed a thin layer of dust on the handle, as if it hadn't been touched in days. She knocked. Once. Twice. Nothing. She tried again, harder this time. "Lena, it's me." Rain had already started to fall when Detective Aidan Crow arrived at the apartment complex. The sky was a low, bruised gray, the kind that pressed down on everything until sound itself felt dampened. He parked beneath a flickering streetlight and sat for a moment, watching droplets race down the windshield. It was early, too early for neighbors to notice the marked car or the quiet weight in his chest that always came before walking into someone's absence. The call had come in around 6 a.m. A possible missing person, female, last seen over a week ago. Apartment locked from the inside, strange text messages. Most reports like that fizzled out into nothing. Runaways, misunderstandings, people ghosting each other. But there had been something in the dispatcher's tone when she mentioned the texts that made Aidan's pulse slow. "You might want to see this one yourself, Detective." He climbed the stairs, rainwater dripping from his coat, and found the young woman who had called it in waiting outside the door. She looked hollowed out by worry, hair damp, hands trembling around a paper cup of coffee. "Chloe?" he asked. She nodded quickly. "You're the detective?" "Yeah." He studied the chain still fastened across the door. The lock had been untouched, the paint around it unbroken. "You haven't been inside?" She shook her head. "No, I didn't want to. I just..." Her voice cracked. "She's my best friend. I know something's wrong." Aiden had heard that tone too many times. The brittle certainty of someone already grieving but unwilling to admit it. He gave her a small nod, motioned for the responding officer to start the report, and knelt by the door. The key Chloe had gotten from the landlord fit easily into the lock. When he pushed, the chain strained but didn't give. He peered through the gap. Darkness, still air, no movement. "Step back," he said quietly. He wedged a small crowbar between the latch and frame, braced himself, and forced it open. The chain snapped with a sound that felt too loud in the silence that followed. The smell hit him first. Metallic, damp, faintly sweet, like copper under rain. He'd learned long ago that certain smells meant memory, flooded bathrooms, abandoned kitchens. But this was different. It wasn't rot yet. It was waiting. He clicked on his flashlight. The beam cut through the dark to reveal a space that looked almost staged. The living room was tidy, surfaces wiped clean, blinds half drawn. A half-full mug of coffee sat on the table beside a charging phone, screen dark but pulsing faintly as it received another message. Chloe gasped softly. "That's her phone," she whispered. Aiden walked over, careful not to disturb anything. Condensation from the mug had left a perfect ring on the coaster. The coffee itself had gone cold long ago. He crouched, examining the phone. Messages lined the screen. Blue and white bubbles stacked neatly, cheerful in tone. "Morning sunshine. Heading to Mom's. Don't worry so much. The last one had been sent 20 minutes ago." "Who's been texting you?" Aiden asked without looking up. Chloe's voice shook. "Her number, every day, like clockwork." He tapped the screen. The chat app was still open. The typing indicator blinked for a brief second, then disappeared. "Did you text her this morning?" "No." Aiden straightened, eyes narrowing. "Then someone else did." The forensic team arrived within minutes. Gloved hands, cameras flashing, the quiet ballet of professionals cataloging a mystery. Aiden moved through the apartment slowly, absorbing details. No sign of forced entry. The bed was made, clothes folded neatly in drawers. A towel hung stiff over the bathroom rack, untouched. He found a collection of sketchbooks on a desk near the window, pages filled with half-finished drawings of faceless figures, all shaded in soft graphite smudges. He flipped through them, feeling something cold in his stomach. The later sketches grew darker. Thick lines shadowed corners, the suggestion of something watching. "Detective?" One of the techs motioned him over. "You'll want to see this." They had traced the messages. The phone's SIM card was still active, but several texts had been queued through a third-party scheduling app, one that could send messages automatically at preset times. According to the log, it had been running for nearly 2 weeks. Aiden's gaze lingered on the glowing screen. The illusion of life continued, hour after hour, like a digital ghost repeating lines it had been programmed to say. "Where's her laptop?" he asked. "Bedroom." He walked in. The curtains were half drawn, the room dim. The air felt heavier here, as if the walls themselves remembered something. The laptop sat closed on the nightstand, next to an open sketchbook and a pen still uncapped. He turned on the computer. Password protected. On the desk, a sticky note with a doodle of a heart and the numbers 1420 written beneath it. He tried them. The screen unlocked with a soft chime. Folders filled the desktop. Design projects, freelance work, personal. Inside personal was a file titled Voice 042.mp3. He didn't play it yet. Not here. "Detective Crow?" The officer at the door hesitated. "Boyfriend's downstairs. Wants to speak with you." "Ryan Archer." The name had been mentioned in the report. Aiden had seen his type before, grief-stricken, defensive, talkative. Sometimes innocent, sometimes not. He found Ryan standing under the overhang outside, hands shoved into his pockets, face pale. The rain had turned heavier, bouncing off the hood of Aiden's car. Ryan looked up as the detective approached. "They said you found her phone," he said hoarsely. "Is she?" "We haven't found her yet," Aiden replied. "When was the last time you saw her?" Ryan swallowed. 2 weeks ago. She said she needed space. We had an argument. She left that night. She's been texting since. I thought she was fine. Aiden studied him quietly. "You thought she was fine, but you didn't hear her voice once." Ryan flinched. "She said she didn't want to talk, just text. Said she was overwhelmed." "Overwhelmed with what?" He hesitated. "Me, probably. I cared too much. I checked on her a lot. Maybe too much." His voice cracked slightly. "But I didn't hurt her." Aiden let the silence sit between them, heavy as the rain. He'd learned that people often revealed themselves most in the quiet moments after they stopped talking. Ryan's hands were trembling, though he tried to hide it. Silence. Her hands trembled as she turned the knob. It didn't budge. Locked. She crouched down, peering through the narrow gap between the door and the frame. The chain was hooked from the inside. That didn't make sense. She called Ryan immediately. He answered after a few rings, voice thick with sleep. "Chloe? What's wrong?" "I'm at Lena's," she said. "The door's chained shut." "What?" "That's weird," he said slowly. "She told me she was visiting her mom this week." Chloe's pulse quickened. "Her mom's in Arizona. You think she drove there without telling anyone?" Ryan hesitated. "She's been acting strange. Maybe she just needs space. You know how she gets." But Chloe didn't know. Not anymore. That night she couldn't sleep. She sat in bed scrolling through Lena's texts again. There was one message she hadn't noticed before, sent 3 days ago. "Don't come by, I'm fine." She remembered Lena's voice, the warmth, the sarcasm, the laughter, and realized she could no longer hear it in her head when reading those words. Whoever was sending these messages, it didn't sound like Lena anymore. Chloe began to dig. She went through Lena's social media. No new posts, no story updates. Her email auto-replies were turned on, set to out of office for a personal retreat. The phrasing was sterile, corporate, completely unlike her. She called Lena's office and was told she hadn't been in for nearly 2 weeks. When Chloe asked if anyone had heard from her, there was an uncomfortable pause. Her boyfriend sent a note, the manager said. He said she was taking a mental health break. By then, Chloe's unease had hardened into fear. She drove to Ryan's apartment the next day. He opened the door wearing sweatpants, eyes red, the faint smell of whiskey clinging to him. His living room was cluttered with takeout boxes and empty bottles. "She's fine," he said before she even asked. "She just needed to disappear for a bit." "Disappear?" He rubbed his face. "You don't get it. She was pulling away, talking about quitting her job, deleting everything, starting over. I thought she was just being dramatic, but then she left." "Did you actually see her leave?" He hesitated, eyes darting toward the window. "Not really. She texted me after. Said she needed time." Chloe stared at him. "You believe that?" His jaw clenched. "Why wouldn't I?" "Because her car's still in the lot. Because her phone's still sending messages at exactly the same times every day. Because none of this makes sense." She didn't say any of that aloud. She just watched him for a long, silent moment, trying to read something behind the exhaustion in his eyes. "Ryan," she said quietly, "if she contacts you again, tell me immediately." He nodded, but his eyes didn't meet hers. That night, Chloe lay awake, staring at her ceiling. Rain tapped softly against the window. Every time her phone buzzed, she jumped. It was past midnight when the next message came. "You worry too much. Go to sleep. Her throat went dry. She hadn't told anyone about her insomnia. The words hit like a whisper from a room she couldn't see. She replied with shaking fingers. Where are you? No answer. She tried again. Please just send a photo. Anything. Still nothing. Then at 3:12 a.m., another text appeared. Stop asking questions. Her breath caught. The screen pulsed with that small, indifferent glow. She could almost imagine the fingers typing it, except she knew they weren't Lena's. By morning, she had made up her mind. She drove back to the apartment complex as the sun struggled through the clouds. The parking lot was empty except for Lena's car, still unmoved. Chloe's reflection stared back at her through the windshield, pale and trembling. She took a deep breath and dialed 911. When the dispatcher asked what the emergency was, Chloe hesitated, realizing how insane it would sound. My friend, she said finally. She's missing, but she's been texting me every day. There was silence on the other end. Then the voice replied, careful and calm. Ma'am, are you saying you think someone else is sending the messages? Chloe looked up at the dark windows of Lena's apartment. The curtains hadn't moved. The air smelled faintly metallic, like rain before a storm. Yes, she whispered. I think someone's pretending to be her. The operator said officers would arrive soon, but Chloe barely heard it. Her eyes were fixed on Lena's window. On the faint flicker of light she could swear had just moved inside. It was gone a second later. Her phone buzzed again in her hand. Another message. You shouldn't have come back. The words appeared slowly, one by one, as if typed deliberately. Chloe's breath hitched. The apartment door above remained shut. The sky grew heavier, darker, and somewhere behind that chained door, in the silence of a sealed room, something waited to be found. Where were you the night she left? At home. Anyone with you? No. Aiden nodded slowly. We'll need to verify that. Ryan's jaw tightened. You think I did something? I think, Aiden said evenly, something happened to her. And until I know what, I have to consider every possibility. Ryan turned away, blinking rapidly as if fighting tears. You don't understand. She was the only person who ever believed in me. She said she'd never leave. Then one day she just stopped. Aiden watched him walk toward his car, shoulders hunched, rain pooling around his feet. There was a sadness there that didn't look entirely performative, but sadness wasn't innocence. Back upstairs, the forensic team was finishing up. Aiden walked through the apartment one last time, his gaze catching on the details others might overlook. The faint scuff mark on the floor near the sofa, the misplaced photo frame on the counter, the single earring glinting under the edge of the rug. He crouched and lifted the corner. A dark stain spread beneath it, old, but unmistakable. He stood there for a long time, listening to the rain against the windows. Later, back at the station, he sat in the glow of his desk lamp, staring at the laptop they had collected. He put on his headphones and opened the audio file. A click, then a breath. A woman's voice, soft, trembling. If you're hearing this, I think something's wrong. I'm scared of him. He says he loves me, but I don't think love is supposed to sound like this. Static. Then another voice, faint in the background. A man's, distorted but low. Lena, stop recording. The file ended abruptly. Aiden removed the headphones slowly. He closed his eyes, letting the familiar weight of guilt settle in, the echo of another woman's voice from years ago, another case that had ended too late. He exhaled through his nose, steadying himself. Get me everything on Ryan Archer, he told the officer passing by. Phone records, financials, social media, and check for any recent purchases, cleaning supplies, bleach, rugs. The officer nodded and hurried off. Aiden looked again at the case file spread before him. The photos, the chat logs, the timestamps. Lena's life had been reduced to digital traces, bits of light pretending to be warmth. Outside, thunder rolled across the horizon. He thought of the way the apartment smelled, rain and metal, and knew that somewhere inside those walls, truth was beginning to surface. He leaned back, rubbing a hand over his face. Another message from Lena's number pinged on the evidence phone. Everything's okay now, please stop asking questions. Aiden stared at it for a long moment, then at the photo of her smiling face in the report. He whispered, almost to himself, "No, it's not." The screen dimmed, reflecting his tired eyes. Outside, the storm deepened. And somewhere beneath that quiet hum of rain, the truth waited to be unearthed.
Rain streaked down the interrogation room window in crooked lines, soft enough to blur the world outside. The hum of the fluorescent light above seemed louder than it should have been, echoing in the hollow quiet between two people who no longer needed to speak to know what the other was thinking. Detective Aiden Crow watched Ryan Archer from across the table.
He was thinner now, unkempt beard, dark crescents beneath his eyes, hands restless against the metal surface. He hadn't slept much since they brought him in. Maybe not before that either. "You said she left after the fight," Aiden began calmly. "Walk me through that night again." Ryan looked up, eyes bloodshot. "I've already told you everything." "Tell me again." Ryan's jaw twitched. "We argued. She said she couldn't do it anymore. Us, the constant checking in. I told her I just wanted to keep her safe. She called it control." His fingers clenched around the paper cup of water. "She stormed out. That's it." Aiden leaned back, voice even. "And you didn't follow her?" A pause. "No. You didn't call, didn't check the cameras near her apartment, didn't go to her place for 2 weeks even though she wasn't answering anyone." Ryan's throat bobbed. "She texted me every day, said she was fine." Aiden pushed a folder across the table. "You mean these texts?" Inside were printouts of the automated message logs pulled from Lena's phone. Ryan's eyes darted over them, his breathing quickening as if each word was cutting him open. "She was still talking to me," he whispered. "No," Aiden said quietly. "Her phone was." The words hung in the air like a verdict. Ryan's face drained of color. "She used to schedule posts sometimes," he said weakly. "For her work. Maybe she—" "The timestamps on these were created after the day she vanished," Aiden interrupted. "They were written on your laptop, Ryan, using your IP address." The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush the air out of the room. Ryan blinked hard, hands trembling now. "That doesn't mean—" "It means," Aiden said, lowering his voice. "You've been pretending she was alive." Ryan's breath came out ragged, the sound of a man realizing the ground beneath him had shifted. He stared at his own reflection in the dark window. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Not guilt, but grief. "She didn't want to leave," he said quietly. "She was scared. Not of me, but of everything else. I was the only one who understood her." Aiden studied him. "And she told you that?" Ryan nodded, a small, feverish motion. "She said she couldn't trust anyone else. That the world was too loud, too cruel. She said she felt safe when she was with me." The detective didn't respond immediately. He had seen this kind of delusion before, the line between love and possession melting until it became something neither. "What happened that night?" Aiden asked again. Ryan's eyes drifted unfocused. "She tried to leave. She packed her things. I told her we could fix it, that I could change. But she wouldn't listen. She said I scared her." His voice faltered. "I just wanted her to stop yelling. I grabbed her arm, and she pulled away. I swear to God I didn't mean for her to fall." The sound of rain outside deepened, tapping against the glass like slow applause. Aiden's jaw tightened. "Fall where, Ryan?" Ryan's breathing grew shallow. "The floor." She hit her head. I panicked. There was blood, but she was still breathing. And then? I called her name. She didn't move. I thought maybe if she rested. His voice cracked. I told myself she'd wake up. I cleaned the floor, carried her to the bedroom. She looked so peaceful. I couldn't... His face contorted. I couldn't let her go. Aiden sat still, heart steady even as anger simmered beneath his ribs. "So you kept her there?" Ryan looked up sharply. I didn't hurt her. I took care of her. She looked like she was sleeping. The detective closed his eyes briefly, exhaling through his nose. He had seen cruelty disguised as tenderness too many times. What about the messages? He asked. Ryan's voice softened, distant. I didn't want people asking questions. I thought if they still heard from her, they'd leave her alone. She hated attention. I just wanted her peace to last a little longer. Peace? Aiden repeated. You call this peace? Ryan's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand what it's like to lose the only person who made you feel real. Aiden didn't answer. He thought of his own past, the unsolved case that still haunted him, the woman whose voice he still heard in dreams. He understood loss. But not like this. Not twisted into something possessive, something hollow. He rose from the table. We found her, Ryan. Ryan froze. No. She was under the floorboards in her bedroom. You wrapped her in a blanket, sealed the cracks, and laid a rug over it. You left her there while you texted her friends and slept beside her phone. Ryan's lips moved, but no words came. Then, barely audible. She didn't want to leave. Aiden turned to the mirrored wall. Turn off the recorder. The hum of the camera died. He looked back at Ryan, whose head had fallen into his hands. Do you even remember the last thing she said to you? Aiden asked. Ryan's voice was muffled. She said, I can't breathe. For a long moment, no one spoke. Later, when Aiden stepped out into the hallway, the sound of Ryan sobbing inside the room followed him. Officers moved past, their faces tight with professional detachment. Chloe sat at the end of the corridor, waiting. When she saw Aiden, she stood. Did he? She began. Aiden nodded. She covered her mouth, tears spilling silently. He didn't try to comfort her. There was no comfort to give. We'll take him into custody, Aiden said quietly. You don't need to see him again. But she wasn't listening. Her gaze drifted past him, toward the window. She kept saying she was scared, Chloe whispered. I thought she meant work. I never thought she meant him. Aiden said nothing. When she finally left, he walked back to his office. The rain had stopped, but the sky still hung heavy with colorless light. He sat down, staring at the photographs spread across his desk. The messages, the sketchbooks, the photo of Lena smiling in a park, unaware that her story would end in silence. He thought of Ryan's words. I just wanted to keep her close. He opened the evidence laptop again, replaying the audio recording Lena had made. The static buzzed, followed by her trembling voice. If something happens to me, it's because I finally said no. Then the sound of a man shouting her name, the crash of something falling, the abrupt click of the recording ending. Aiden took off his headphones, jaw set. Justice would come, but justice was never clean, not in cases like this. He filled out the last report, the sterile boxes for cause of death, evidence, confession. The courtroom was hushed except for the low hum of fluorescent lights and the quiet tapping of rain against the tall windows. Detective Aiden Crow sat near the back, his face unreadable as Ryan Archer took the stand. Months had passed since the night the messages stopped, if they ever truly had. Ryan looked thinner now, his hair cropped short, his expression vacant. His lawyer adjusted the microphone for him, whispering something that went unheard. Aiden studied his eyes, calm, almost detached, as if the man sitting there was only a shell. The prosecutor began. Mr. Archer, do you understand the charges against you? Ryan nodded. Yes. And you maintain that you did not intend to kill Ms. Morris? I never wanted to hurt her, Ryan said softly. I just didn't want her to leave. His words sent a cold ripple through the room. The prosecutor lifted a piece of evidence, the phone, sealed in plastic, its screen dark. Is this the device you used to send messages from Ms. Morris's account? Ryan's gaze flickered toward it, then back down. I didn't send them all. Explain that. Ryan hesitated, the faintest tremor in his hands. After she was gone, I started getting them too. The courtroom murmured. Aiden leaned forward. The prosecutor frowned. You're saying someone or something else was sending messages? Ryan's voice was barely a whisper. She said she forgave me. Objection, his lawyer said quickly, but the word hung heavy in the air. The judge called for a recess. People stood, murmuring, whispering theories. Aiden remained seated. He knew delusion when he saw it. But he also knew the message he received that morning. 5 words glowing on his screen before disappearing. I'm not angry anymore. He hadn't told anyone. Not yet. When the courtroom emptied, Aiden walked to the evidence room, the floorboards creaking beneath him. The air smelled faintly metallic, just like Lena's apartment. He found the technician from before, Marin, a quiet man with tired eyes, standing over the evidence table, staring at the phone like it might wake up. You said there was another file, Aiden said. Marin nodded. Hidden in the cache, encrypted under a dummy photo album. We almost missed it. He slid a small laptop toward Aiden. The waveform of a recording pulsed across the screen, uneven, broken by static. Marin clicked play. Lena's voice filled the room. October 12th. If you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it out. Her voice shook. He's been watching me, tracking what I say, what I do. I thought it was love at first, but it's not. It's like he wants to live inside me. Aiden's hands clenched at his sides. Lena's breathing trembled through the speaker. He said even if I left, he'd still find a way to be with me, that we could live forever. Through the messages. The static deepened, then her voice softened. If someone finds this, tell them I wasn't crazy. Tell them I tried. A long silence followed, then the faint scrape of movement. A man's voice, low and unrecognizable through distortion. Why are you recording, Lena? The audio cut off. Aiden sat back slowly, the chair creaking beneath him. Marin swallowed hard. That was time-stamped an hour before she disappeared. He stared at the screen, the silence pressing against him. It wasn't just evidence. It was a haunting. Later that evening, the trial resumed. The recording was played in full. Gasps filled the courtroom. Ryan's face went pale. His hands gripped the table until his knuckles whitened. That's not me, he whispered. That voice, it's not me. But everyone could hear the truth, the tone, the cadence. It was him. The verdict came swiftly. Guilty. When the gavel fell, Aiden should have felt relief. Instead, he felt the same hollow quiet that had followed him since the first day he walked into Lena S.'s apartment. Justice had been served, but the air still hummed with unfinished business. As the crowd dispersed, Chloe approached him, tears glistening in her eyes. She used to say silence scared her, she said softly. Said it felt like someone was listening inside it. Aiden didn't reply. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Unknown number. He hesitated, then looked. Thank you for hearing me. The contact photo was Lena's. He froze, pulse pounding. Marin had confirmed the SIM was destroyed. The number didn't exist anymore. And yet, there it was. The same faint glow. The same words that disappeared seconds later as if they had never been sent. Chloe noticed the color drain from his face. What is it? Nothing. He lied, pocketing the phone. That night he sat alone in his apartment. Rain hissed against the window. On his desk lay the case file, the photos, the transcripts of messages that had started it all. He opened his laptop and replayed the final minutes of the recording. The static shifted, then faintly another sound emerged, a whisper buried beneath the noise. A voice. He's not done. Aiden's stomach dropped. He rewound it again. This time the whisper was gone. He exhaled slowly, staring at the waveform pulsing like a heartbeat. Somewhere in the system something had changed. He copied the file to an external drive, then shut the laptop. But as he reached for his phone, it buzzed again. A new message. Aiden. No number. Just the name appearing from nowhere, followed by a typing bubble that blinked once, then vanished. His breath caught. He opened the settings. No connected devices, no spoof apps, no signal. Just silence. Across the room, the lights flickered. The air grew colder. He told himself it was fatigue, paranoia. The mind playing tricks after too many late nights. But then his phone buzzed once more. A photo this time. Lena, smiling faintly, sitting by the window of her apartment. But Aiden recognized the detail the others had missed, the reflection in the glass behind her. A man, blurred but visible, holding the phone that took the picture. The timestamp read, 1 hour after her confirmed time of death. He stood, the room suddenly too small. Outside, thunder rolled low and distant. The next morning, he went back to the evidence room. Marin wasn't there. The phone was gone. The logbook showed no checkout, no signature. When he asked the clerk, she frowned. Evidence tech took it last night, said you requested it. I didn't. The woman's expression shifted uneasily. He showed your badge number. Aiden's stomach turned. What did he look like? She hesitated. Tall, pale. Kinda like you, actually. Aiden stared at her, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. That night, he received another message. You found the truth. Now let me rest. And then, for a long time, nothing. Days passed in silence, the kind that settled too deeply to be ordinary. Ryan's sentencing made the news. The world moved on. But one evening, as Aiden closed his laptop, his screen flickered, a shadow of static across the display. He leaned closer. A text box appeared. Words began typing slowly, one by one. He's still here. The typing stopped. Then another line appeared, shaking slightly as if written by an unseen hand. Look behind you. Aiden turned sharply. The room was empty. The lights buzzed softly overhead, but the faint scent of rain lingered in the air. He looked back at the screen. The message had vanished. The cursor blinked in an empty window. He stared at it for a long time before closing the lid. Outside, the city was quiet, washed clean by another night of rain. He left his phone on the table and walked to the window. The glass reflected his tired face, the faint glow of the city lights. But just for a second, just one breathless heartbeat, he saw another reflection beside him. A woman's outline. Lena's. Then the lights flickered, and the reflection was gone. The phone buzzed one last time. A single message glowed on the dark screen. The silence is never empty. The rain began again, steady and cold, as Aiden stood motionless, staring at the words until they faded, leaving only the echo of a story that refused to end.